So first of all, we begin with a very special mazel tov to our chaver, to the gabbai of the Chassidus chaburah, to Steve Golaskov. Mamish, it's even in deference. His makom is empty. This is mamish, like he's like Rabbi Nachman of Breslov over here. Right? No sits in the makom. So I'll say. So again, Steve is.
Make a chas on Thursday night.
I'm sorry, Steve is mamish. He's marrying off his daughter right now. He's got a number of us just came to chuppah and they just a little while. I got here on time. Today, after the chasana, you are the timekeeper. Baruch Hashem. So, Baruch Hashem, a couple of us are zocha to be able to be there. So, I'm going to ask Mr. Zwani to make a l'chaim in honor of our gabbai.
I just want to say mazel tov and l'chaim to our gabbai. Greatly appreciate it. May he be zocha to see the chassan and kala. You'll the bias memon be Yisrael.
Amen. Amen. L'chaim chavra. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shakol nihiyeh bidvaro. Amen. And I will say, especially Ashkar to Steve. Tzvi. Did you make the food?
Yes.
To see for the spread
Not enough
tonight.
salt.
Not enough salt in the cocoa, but Baruch Hashem, it's okay. Rosh Hashanah is coming up
I have
soon.
no idea if that's
It's
true.
all
I'm
right.
taking
It's true.
John's
No,
word
I'm
for it.
kidding. I'm sure it's excellent. Don't listen to John. He's all right. He doesn't like the competition. He doesn't like the competition. Yeshkach, beautiful. And again, Yeshkach to our sponsors tonight, the mayor. And do we have another Mashka sponsor? Or it was both mayor. Mayor, did you
Just
do
the rye. There's no sponsor, I don't think, for the
Mamish, it's a Yassam bourbon. It's a Yassam bourbon. Okay, good. Yeshkach to our mayor for the sponsor. I will say again, beautiful. Such a way to bring in Erev Shabbos with all of you. Let's begin. I will say tonight we have a very, very, very special piece by the Piagetz now. So already again, did we have shir last week? No, what was last week?
Thanksgiving.
Thanks. Oh no, we had shir. We had shir.
You didn't learn
Right,
this.
right. We didn't learn this. We learned Pachad Yitzchak.
I wasn't here.
We
but
learned
I checked
Pachad
in just to make
Yitzchak.
sure.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'd have to.
Yes, we did not have. We did not. We did have shir. We did have shir. We did a piece of Pachad Yitzchak. Okay, brothers. By the way, if you didn't hear that shir yet, it's on the podcast. It is a gewaltige piece by Hutner, mind-blowing, life-altering, cathartic, overwhelmingly, comprehensively life-changing piece by Hutner. Absolutely beautiful. So we'll say. So tonight we're back in the Piagetz now. So going back 2 weeks. So tonight we're actually beginning Os Tes, which is on page 23. In the Bnai Machshava Tova. So we'll say, so interesting. So we'll say, by the way, I just want to tell you just the genesis of this, how these things take on a life. I got approached just this past week by a group of guys, who want to start their own chaburah for Bnei Machshava Tova. They heard the shir. It's a group of friends. Not from here. They want to start. They just want to start. Like as they heard, they're like, "Wow, this is powerful. If we could get a group of our chaverim together and learn about again altering our life and coming closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu." Just saying, we'll say, "Piagetzna." We should be zocha to affect the level of change while we're on this world that the Piagetzna zocha to affect when he's no longer in this world business Olam HaEmes. The change that the Rebbe affects to this very day is transformative. So remember again, back in Oschas, so the Piagetzna introduced us to the idea that in order to come to this level of Yedias Hashem, mindfulness, right, God awareness, the idea to be like a ben and not be like an eved, a person needs two things. The Piagetzna said, Hisrachvus v'shichlo ha-machshava. Person needs again a sense, what he called his orurus ves ragshus. A person has to be inspired, or I should say, a person has to have imagination and inspiration. Imagination, inspiration. So the part of the PhD, so imagination, the truth is, we actually spent a significant amount of time talking about that, about how the imagination often can't see past anything gashmi, can't see past anything that's material, and all the imagination sees ultimately again is again, I can imagine a vacation, right? Today I can imagine a car, I can imagine a house, but I can't imagine HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we spoke about how to alter the imagination. The other piece of the Piaget was inspiration. So remember, both say the Piaget was speaking about how do you become inspired? What's the first step to becoming inspired? So the Piaget said something incredible. He said the first step to becoming inspired. What do you need? Take off, please. I'm sorry, I didn't pass it back. I'm sorry. Take a few back if anyone else needs. Anyone else? I'm sorry. My apologies. I thought you were coming for my seltzer. I was getting a little nervous. It's not. It's viciously warm. Actually, it's kind of sad. And so the Piaget.
Bring your own rookie mistake.
I'm sorry?
Bring your own rookie mistake.
Yeah, I know. Seriously, it's my fault again. I can't get a cold thing of seltzer around here. And I'll say,
I'm going to bring two next week.
Thank you. I dropped the hint. I was hint received. So the Piaget brings down, and this is so fascinating, that the way to become inspired, what's the first step of becoming inspired? Is feeling emotion. When a person allows himself to feel emotion, so emotion is what opens up the heart, right? Emotion is what unlocks the door. Emotion, remember again, I said the mashal of like the father whose son is in prison, the warden goes in, and the father has the chance to walk in, and all the father does is talk about the legal case, but he doesn't talk about how much he loves his son. So emotion opens the door. Once you open the door, then you have a front seat to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now you can figure out what to do with the moment. So if you remember again, how did the Piagetzna in the last year, how did he discuss about how to elicit emotion? In a very dramatic way. Remember again, the Piagetzna was talking about, imagine the day you die. Imagine the day that you die. And that the feeling, the emotion that feeling engenders of imagining one's final moments, his family around his bed, imagining my final moments, again, when I take my final breath, imagining the levaya, imagining all of these different things, that creates an incredible torrent of emotion. And it's that emotion, the allowing myself to feel that emotion, that often goes ahead and creates the first spark of inspiration. I will say, what's very interesting is the Piagetz is also highlighting the idea that very often we don't allow ourselves to feel emotions. Whether we recognize it or not, we often wall ourselves off. Right? People are scared of emotion. And that's why people often prefer to remain stoic, aloof, and detached. Because they're afraid if I allow myself to feel, I don't know what's going to happen. Piaget says, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. If you allow yourself to feel, you allow yourself to be emotional, you're going to be inspired. Because feeling emotion is the first step to inspiration. So with that, we're continuing in Ostes. And this is probably going to be one of the most beautiful pieces we've done this entire time so far. So the Rebbe writes as follows. He says, Choshvani, page 23. You need a sheet. Anything you need? Okay, good. So Choshvani shalachim kol kach nefesh ha'adam temuna v'yeshenish nas olam. So the Piaget says, I think that very often the problem is a person's neshama, that's temuna, that's often hidden inside of him, is in a deep, eternal slumber. See, I will say, my problem is at the end of the day, not that I have a problem with my ruchnis, I have a problem accessing my neshama. It's walled off. It's walled off. It's in a deep slumber. And I will say, and therefore again, because it's in this deep slumber, therefore by definition, I'm unable to get to the level of what he calls Machshava Tahora, purity of thought, and a sense of inspiration. Mipnei, listen to this line. Mipnei she'ein tfilaso v'his oraruso ba'os ka'achas. So I will say, here the Piaget says something amazing. So watch what's happening there. I will say, I want to point out, you've also noticed by now, that because this is not like a Musar Sefer, it's certainly not a Halacha Sefer, so it's written by the Piagetzna. It was a manual. It was a manual about how to structure a chaburah to rally people around a central concept of growth, of personal growth. So if you notice, the way it's written is much more free-flowing. So the Piagetzna writes over here. So look what he did. He says, in order to go ahead and reach a level of mindfulness, God awareness, I need imagination and inspiration. Imagination we spoke about, inspiration. What's the problem? Why is inspiration so difficult? The Piaget says, because I'm emotionally walled off. Inspiration doesn't happen without emotion. Or at least I will say, now remember again, this is a Chassidish Rebbe, right? So again, if you're Chassidically challenged, you definitely could probably argue on this and say, no, there's a such thing as inspiration without emotion. You could be a kalter litvak, rachmana litzlan, lo aleinu chas v'shalom, right? It could happen, right? And Lamais again, you could say, oh no, there's plenty of inspiration without emotion. First of all, it's false. It's false, or at least it's false now. Maybe once upon a time it was true, and once upon a time there was a derech. It absolutely, unequivocally does not work now. The Kalter Litvak is an extinct species. It doesn't work for our door. It doesn't work. Our door, our generation, I will say, needs his odorous, needs emotion, needs love, needs depth, needs feeling. Again, the intellectual, it worked. It worked for a long time, and that's why Klal Yisrael got to where it got to today. But I think that this is just an opinion piece. This is the editorial. Okay, back to Piagetzna. So the Piagetzna, obviously, he's coming from the perspective of Chassidus. And in Chassidus, of course, again, there is no inspiration without emotion. What's the challenge? The challenge, says the Piagetzna, is I'm walled off. I'm walled off emotionally. I'm just closed off. So the Piaget says, okay, so what's the first step in inspiration? Well, isn't this incredible? The first step is allowing yourself to feel, right? You have to give yourself the license to feel. So how do I do it? But I don't feel things. I'm not an emotional person. So that's why the Piaget said, okay, so think about death. Death is a pretty emotionally evocative experience. When one thinks about that, and the Piaget was so graphic in the way he described the person's last moments. Now the Piaget is kind of taking this in a different route. We're going to see in a more positive way. The Piaget said this. The other problem is that often, and this is incredible, our moments of prayer and inspiration don't coincide. Listen to what I say. They don't coincide. What does that mean? Look what he writes. Harbe pamim mispalo ve'eno muksholis ora'ata. When I daven, I'm often not inspired. Right? And then, when I'm inspired, I'm not davening. See, I will say, see what the Piaget says over here is something amazing. The ultimate goal is, in other words, if I could be inspired and daven at the same time, that's it. That's it. Because think about it. Now, ultimately, again, I'm emotional, I'm inspired, so the wall is down, and now it's tefillah. What's tefillah? Dialogue with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now I'm there. I'm having this close and personal relationship. It's the mindfulness. It's the God awareness. I'm a son. I'm not a servant. But the Piaget says, how incredible is Rabbi saying that so often, like tefillah, prayer, and inspiration are often, what's the expression? Like two ships passing each other at night, right? That it's incredible. I was thinking about this. After when I was learning this piece, I was thinking about this. Like, if I think of some of my most inspired moments, like of late, they're not during davening. They're not during davening. Oh my gosh, but what a waste. Not a waste, but like, so I'm davening, sometimes I'm davening but not inspired, and then I'm inspired but not davening. So the Piaget says the goal is, I have to align those two things. I have to figure out a way to align inspiration and tefillah. Because I will say, if I can, inspiration, in other words, so really what it is emotion, which allows for inspiration. And then what's tefillah? We'll say, what's tefillah? It's the way to plug in your inspiration. It's the way to take that inspiration and channel it into a dialogical relationship. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm talking to you. We're talking, we're conversing, we're connecting. So the goal is to align those two things. It's incredible. Therefore, the Piaget writes, he says, Lachein, morgol nafshel lishon v'lanuach betmuna, betamtuna v'efshar lo lichashe machshavas tahora, rach machshavas gafnis. But often because prayer, right, tefillah, and inspiration do not align, so what ends up happening is I don't really come to activate imagination. So we'll say, now the Piaget is kind of rounding this out. The way it works is emotion triggers ultimately, again, inspiration, which then ultimately leads to mindfulness, right? Which then leads to God awareness. So the challenge I have is, but yet the inspiration only leads to a sense of imagination, right? Mindfulness, God awareness, if the inspiration is plugged into something. The problem so often is, what happens? We know this happens with inspiration, right? Think about your last dramatically inspirational moment. Think about it for just a moment, okay? Good, you have it in mind? What happened after that inspired moment? Right? More often than not, the answer is nothing. Nothing. I will say, by the way, I'll tell you something else. I was thinking about this just tonight. By the Chop, I was thinking about this. What was it? Just a couple of weeks ago. Remember again, we had our siyum from Maseches. Which Masechta? Ksuvas. Ksuvas, right? I'm siyum Maseches Ksuvas. Beautiful Suda. Yosef Karduner. Mamish. It was Olam Hazeh, Olam Haba, all rolled together. I'm thinking, it's beautiful. So, how's my life different? And the answer is, it's not. So essentially, what I got was a good dinner, a good concert, a good kumsitz. But I did not plug it into anything concrete. And the Piaget says this is what happens so often in life. And why is that? Because my spiritual planets are not aligning. So when there's inspiration, there's no prayer. When there's prayer, there's no inspiration. So now I'm inspired. I don't put it anywhere. So because I don't put it anywhere, the inspiration doesn't lead to further imagination. And because it doesn't lead to further imagination, it doesn't create God awareness. And because it doesn't create God awareness, therefore what? I'm not living with Shivisi Hashem L'Negdi Seven. I'm not living in the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Yeah, I read recently, and I thought it was this beautiful interpretation that, the famous story that when Yaakov Avinu met Yosef after all these years, it says that it was his man to say Kriya Shema, and he said Shema. So why didn't he just wait 5 minutes later?
He plugged it in.
At that moment, he felt this powerful moment of inspiration and emotion, right. And then
he put it into something.
That into tefillah.
It's the Maral and Gurari brings that down. Absolutely, we're going to see some Baruch Shekivanta. We're going to see something very similar in this as well. Watch what the Piaget says. Beautiful. He says, Rak. So again, because inspiration doesn't align with tefillah, therefore again I will say, even if inspiration somehow does trigger imagination, it triggers the wrong imagination, right? What does it trigger? What kind of imagination? Ma yochal. What should I eat? Ma yishta. And I will say, by the way, we do imagine these things, right? Oh, well, what would a good dinner look like, right? I mean, it looks like this, of course, right? I'm saying like, so that's what the imagination gets used for. So when there's no alignment, in other words, when inspiration comes and goes, so the imagination does what the imagination does, which is, it imagines gashmios and nothing else. What should I eat? What should I drink? Well, where should I go on vacation? What kind of car should I buy? איך יאורה עצמו בתפילה בתחבולות שונות, אבל גם צד השני לא יעזוב. היינו, כל מיני אורו שעולו בקרבו בכל היום, שלא בשעת הזה. So I'll say, here we go. Look what, so the Piagetza says like this. Here's the key. The key is that, and look what he writes. He says, sometimes we have a very narrow definition of inspiration. He said, so what, right, when I say inspiration, what do you think? What's inspiration?
Motivation.
A motivation, good. What else? A spark, right? Well, isn't it interesting how either it's because just you're into the kugel and the wings, you're not answering, or Lamaisa, like, it's a difficult question to answer, right? What's the definition of inspiration? Change. What do you mean by change?
You keep using God awareness as something that we're supposed to be doing 24/7, and I would say God awareness is that you have it at a kumzitz, you have it whatever, and that inspires you, and then a week later you do something that maybe you wouldn't have done before.
So you're working backwards in the Piagetza, which actually we're going to discuss. But I like, so why do you, so you're saying inspiration means change?
Wanting to be change. It's kind of inspiration.
Wanting to be better. So we'll say, so Chaim, Baruch Shekivanta. So listen to, I think Reb Chaim is saying close to what the Piagetza is saying. We'll say, you know how the Piagetza understands inspiration? Inspiration is like this. If you can imagine, it's not a good mashal, but like, if you know, like you're on a heart monitor, right? So it's like, I don't know what you call it, right? You know, right? Right? Up. Is that what they call it? That's the medical term. Good. It's a wave. So we'll say, so, and then like, Chas v'sholom, when there's no heartbeat, you know, it's just unfortunately, it's on a flat line. The truth is, if you think about it, like from the world of Ruchnius, it's actually a little bit different. A regular person is a flat line. What's inspiration? It's the blip. It's the tuta, right? It's the going up and down, right? A moment of inspiration means that something has changed. To use Chaim's word, something has changed in the normal rhythm of your life. So the moment of inspiration is something now is different. Now again, whether I act differently or live differently or behave differently, that's a different question. But the moment of inspiration is the moment that, okay, my life was a flat line. Wow, now something happened. Tutu. Now, right? Now we're going up. Going up, down. I'm sorry?
You hope it's a flat line.
Yo.
Regular.
Right, correct. Right, we're talking, right. Flat line is a good baseline, right, as opposed to dipping below. Correct. Let's assume right now we're all tzaddikim, right, we're all yesharim. Hey, so again, it's a good flat line, maybe with a couple of little dips, right? But lamaisa, again, the moment of inspiration is the moment like it jumps up. Now again, I haven't done anything, just as it's an inspired moment.
But, you know, Rabbi, I work in an area where I'm always looking for inspiration because I'm doing creative work. Either in my business that I'm doing, writing advertising, so trying to get something that will move people. So if you're working on a particular project and you're looking for a creative solution to something, the inspiration, you have to create your own inspiration. And it comes from things boiling around. So you have to really think about things on a constant subliminal and sometimes active level.
Good. So
to get an insight.
Absolutely. I think
and
with
that results in that.
So remember, Jerry, what you're describing of a person who's looking for inspiration is already a level. Right? So I'm saying you're already describing someone who's actively looking. So that's already like an accomplishment that I am the kind of person who looks for inspiration. We're not even up to that yet. We're going to get to that. Right? But even before that, on a most basic like definitional level, what is an inspired moment? So I will say, so again, I will tell you, like before I learn this piece, I think what's an inspired moment? An inspired moment is something has happened that has moved me. The Piagetza says no. That's not inspiration. Inspiration is something, there's an event that has occurred, that has disrupted the normal rhythm of living. There's my life is a flat line, and then there's the dutut. We have to come up with a better term, but you understand, right? Right? Then there's the dutut, right? Then ultimately again, there's a slant up, a slant. Something's changed. Look what the Piagetna says. He says, "Hainu minas orush she'ola b'kirba b'chol hayom shelo b'shas hatfila v'avod lo yazo osa gam kein." Shabbos says, so now, if we translate inspiration not as a moment where, like, I feel lifted up to the Holy of Holies, right? I feel so, but a moment of inspiration is a moment where something has changed, like Chaim said. Something has changed in life, right? The flat line is no longer a flat line. Something is different. So the Piagetz says those are the moments you have to grab in life. Also, listen to this. Rak, yishmishena lemafteach hanefesh. It's those moments of inspiration, what we'll call inspired change. I will say again, when I say change, I haven't done anything, right? What do I mean when I say change? What do I mean when I say change?
Desire.
Or before we even get to that, something's just changed in my life. In other words, circumstantial change. Something's changed. I haven't done anything. Something really is happening to me. Some change is occurring in my life. He says, listen to this. Ki kanirali, kol minis rakshos afilu shal mischar, ushar inyani haguf, hein shal shviras halev, hein shal simcha, yesh bo tzad gilui hanefesh. Rabbi said, listen to this. The Piagetz says, a moment of inspiration is a moment when you feel something different. Now, you may feel something different for a variety of reasons. Maybe it's because a business deal just went well. Maybe it's because a business deal just went south. Maybe it's because you had a fight with your spouse, or whatever it is. But those moments, says the Piagetz, those moments of his structures, that moment of where there's an emotional change in me. There's something's happened. And I will say, by the way, the something is not necessarily ruchni, it's not necessarily spiritual, but something has happened that has changed my emotional disposition. I feel happy, I feel sad, but something's happened that's changed the flat line. So the Piagetz says, in those moments, when something has changed the flat line, that's a moment of emotion. Like the Piagetz says, whenever you experience a moment of emotion, then what? That's Gilui HaNefesh. The door has been opened, and suddenly I am given access to my soul. Now let's remember again, he's describing, he's Lashon over here, remember, I'm experiencing a moment of elevated emotion. Happiness, sadness, whatever it might be. And now in that moment of elevated emotion, there's access to the neshama. Writes the Piagetz, listen to this. Rak shemechusuhu belavush shel tzarchei ha'olam hazeh. And we'll see now the difference in this case is, so remember, this moment of elevation, this moment of emotion, it's not spiritual. Right? We'll say, let's just play this out for just a moment, right? Right? So I go to work, I'm working on a deal, the deal falls through. How do you feel when the deal falls through? How do you feel? Right? Depressed, disappointed. Good. I'm so happy nobody said, I say Gamzula Tova. Good. Right? Good, right? Because it's not true. It's not true. That's that. In other words, you could work towards that. But when it doesn't work, you feel sad. You feel depressed. It may be even like a little bit hopeless and a little bit forlorn. That's normal. Says the Piagetz, wow. Understand, you're feeling emotion. So what's just happened? The flat line has just changed. When you feel emotion by definition opens the door to your soul. So often in life, I'm walled off. Now I'm feeling emotion. By the way, not emotion, anything to do with religion. This is emotion about my business because I'm upset that the deal fell through. I'm angry that the deal... You're feeling emotion. You feel emotion, the door to the neshama is open. So says the Piagetz, now get ready. Person has to use that moment. We'll say, watch this. Person has to use that moment of emotion. Emotion, the door to the soul is open, right? This is, again, remember, according to Piagetna, this is a moment of inspiration, because inspiration just means a change of the status quo. I normally feel the flat line, something happened, I'm upset. Let's go with upset. I'm disappointed. I'm disillusioned. I can't believe this didn't come through. You're feeling emotion. The door to the neshama is open. Says the Piagetna, do something with it. Ukishem margish. Ezo min shel shviras halef. So when a person feels a sense of brokenheartedness, afilu mitzarche haguf. Even though we're going to both say, what am I feeling brokenhearted over? What am I feeling brokenhearted over? My business. This has nothing to do with, I wish I was a bigger Talmid Chacham. Right? I wish I did more chesed. I'm upset that the deal didn't come through. I'm broken. I put in so much effort and I'm upset. I'm disappointed. Says the Piagetna. What should you do in that moment? Both say, get ready for this. What should you do in that moment? Yelif tekef hatzida. V'yamid otz atzmo el hakosel. V'yomar ezo kapitlach tehilin. Okay, let's get ready for this. Piagetna says, what do you do in that moment of emotion? What do you do in that moment, quote unquote, of inspiration? He says, take yourself to the side, say a few kapitlach of Tehillim. Now I both say, you think it to yourself, why am I saying Tehillim? Why am I saying Tehillim? Oh, because maybe the deal is going to turn around. No, the deal is in the toilet, right? The deal's done, right? It's done, right? Avar yoma batal karbano. It's done. It's not coming back. He's not saying say Tehillim because you think you're going to change the gzar din on the. He's saying you're feeling. How often are we just walled off from emotion? So if I'm walled off from emotion, there's no ability for inspiration. If there's no ability for inspiration, there's no ability for imagination. If there's no ability for imagination, there's no ability to reach a level of God awareness, to be a son of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So now says the Piagetna, you're upset that the business deal didn't come through. You're feeling something. There's a tutut, right? You're feeling something. You're feeling something? That means the door to your neshama is open. Take advantage. So what should you do, says the Piagetna? Daven. Not for the deal. But say, you know what, if I'm feeling this energy, if I'm feeling this emotion, the door to my neshama is open. Let me do something with it. Yomar Iza Kapitlach Atilim. And he's about to listen to what he says. V'yoser tov, Lomar Kapitel, Shume'inyan Hamaora Shalo, Ulefi Dagaso. And even better, choose a kapitel of Tehillim which reflects how you're feeling in life. In other words, there's a lot of stuff in Sefer Tehillim, a lot of stuff. There's a lot of beautiful messages in Sefer Tehillim. So find the kapitel that reflects where you're holding your life. He says, L'mashal, im da'agoso atam min sonov. If let's say you're upset now, the disappointment comes out because people mistreated you, you have enemies. Yispalo kapitel hey, ma rabu tsarai rabim kamim alai. Say kapitel hey, which speaks of Adam talking about his enemies rising up against him. V'im daigo yispal, right? And if v'im daigo acheres, and if you just have general worries, yispalo tavati biyavim mitzulo. So ultimately, again, David, like David HaMelech said, I'm drowning in the swamp of life. Oh, eso inai eloharim me ayin yavo ezri. So I'll say, so says the Piagetna, choose a kapitel of Tehillim which matches your present emotional disposition. He says, look what he writes. So we'll say, so again, you understand what the Piagetna is saying? This is so incredible, because the Piagetna is handing us the keys to our own inspiration. Because Lemaisa, again, the Piagetna says the prerequisite for inspiration is emotion. The problem is, often I'll say, I'm an unemotional person. Everyone gets emotional about something. Some people get emotional about family. Some people get emotional about money. Some people get emotional about everybody gets emotional about something. In that moment where you're feeling, there's the dutut, right? The up and down. I'm sorry?
About contraction.
Contraction, good. Because excellent, right? There's that contraction, right? It's changing, right? It's no longer a flat line. So there's emotion. Again, don't you remember? When emotion, I will say, what's open? The door to the neshama is open. It says the Piagetna, grab it, do something quick before it closes. Say a kapitel of Tehillim. And say a kapitel of Tehillim that's reflective of how you actually feel. But look what he writes. V'lo yavo pitom min hashuk v'yedaber diburim below leiv or below moach. Now we'll say, when you say Tehillim, it doesn't just mean, pull up the app on your phone and just, knock off a couple of Tehillim and that's it, you're done. It says, pause for a little bit. Let the Machshava say, emotion is like fine wine. Right? So everyone knows, right? You don't take a glass of wine All right, you don't take like a good bottle of wine, just like open it up, pour it into a plastic cup, and drink it. Right? Come on, chas v'shalom. Right? I'm sorry. No, that's where we don't do that. They do that during Musaf. During Musaf, they might do that. Right? Or during Haftorah. Right, let's say again, what do you do with a fine wine? If you want to enjoy it, right? You open it, you let it breathe for a couple of hours, you drink it out of a glass. Right? In other words, to experience it, you have to give it time. Says the Piaget, the same thing is you're having emotion. So on one hand, I need to act now because I don't want the door to close, but I also just can't like jump into it. So now what I have to do is I have to say, okay, I'm feeling something. I'm emotional right now. And because I'm emotional, that means the door to my neshama is open. So the Piaget says, don't just rattle off to a couple of kaped lach of tilim. He says, because if you do that, we'll say, then what? I'm just saying stuff without thought, without concentration. Rak, yisbonein kodam bedagosav. So it says incredible Piaget. So you know what you should do? Think about whatever's bothering you. So I'm upset the deal didn't go well. I'm upset. So I will say, think about it. Think about it. Right? Let me ponder it a little bit. Like lahavda, same way I'm going to let the wine like aerate a little bit. I want to put it in the glass. I want to swish it around. I want to roll it around my palate a little bit. So now I'm feeling emotional. Like there's a contraction, right? Something is different. It's no longer a flat line. So let me think about this a little bit. Let me think about this challenge. Let me think about why it is that I'm so upset. He says, Dagos elu. Rakisboni kodem bedagosav. Dagos elu hamonim osum tsarim kol kach harbe. Think about these things that are causing me so much pain. V'el mi yelech umi yosher. And then I will say, ask myself one question. Who should I go to? Who should I go to? Who do I go to when the deal doesn't go well? Who do I go to? Who do I talk to? Imlo HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hakol Yachol Al HaRachamon. But at the end of the day, when things don't go well in life, so the truth is, it's easy to say it was this person, it was that person. But the truth is, it's in those moments where I recognize that the truth is I'm totally and wholly reliant on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Says the Piaget is something amazing. When something doesn't go well, and you're upset, and you're disappointed, and you're disillusioned, first, allow yourself to feel that feeling. And then ask yourself, who should I talk to about it? Who should I connect with about it? And the Piaget says, of course, the answer is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Ribono Shel Olam. He goes on, he says, V'hu miskarif ato lifnei kisei kavodo u'b'machshavto mitzayer es kavod Hashem she'omed hu lefanei v'yispachu mischan. I will say, now what happens? Now I realize the only person to speak about the failed deal to is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I mean, again, obviously there are other people to speak to, but L'maisa, I realize how much I need my father. And I will say, suddenly, what do I find myself? Suddenly, I find myself ultimately standing before the Kisei HaKavod, standing before HaKadosh Baruch Hu's throne. And in my mind, I see myself talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He says, Sha'omed lefanav mispar, Hashem. And I say, Hashem, Marabu tsarai. Hashem, I'm so upset. I'm so disappointed. Rabim omrim em Yeshua Sola Belokim. Some people say there's no hope for me. Right? Kachim omrim. Aval ve'ato Hashem magain ba'adi. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ultimately, again, you will take care of me. Ve'achar shabosai. So you hear what the Piaget is saying over here? Also, it's so profound. Piaget is saying is, ride the wave of emotion, no matter how it comes. No matter how it comes. It comes in a moment of disillusionment and disappointment. Okay, ride it. Ride it. Shabbos, so, yes.
It almost feels like a contradiction, though. Because, like, on one hand, it's like if you're, reaching out to Hashem, you're saying, like, Hashem's in control. But on the other hand, if you're doing it because you have this anger, it's almost like that anger is there because there's, like, a lack of trust to some degree. Like, if somebody really has that belief, like, Hashem controlling everything, like, he's not going to be upset that the business deal failed. So,
Richard, you're saying 100% correct. And I think the beauty of what the Piaget is saying, and this is why I love it so much, is it's so real. You're right. The level I want to get to is where I don't even get upset about the business deal. Right? You know why? Because Gamzula Tova. I often say, Gamzula Tova is one of the most misunderstood concepts in Yiddishkeit. And I blame it all on Uncle Moshe. It's all Uncle Moshe's fault. I'll tell you why. It's Uncle Moshe's fault. Right? Is it Josh? Whoever it is, I remember Uncle Moshe. Uncle Moshe had a song, I think it was one of these songs, Gamzu Tova. I will say, and you know what the song is about? The song is about, like, a guy who is just like the biggest nebuch in the world, right? And everything bad keeps happening to him because whatever. And Gamzu Latova. So it creates like a model of like, when do you say, like, Gamzu Latova is what you say when your luck is run out, life is terrible, but you still want to sound frum, so you say Gamzu Latova. Gamzu Latova. But what Chad is saying is you're 100%, what Gamzu Latova represents is probably the highest level of theological refinement, where I recognize that everything comes from Hashem. And so I don't even get upset. We're not up to that yet. Right now, I'm a regular guy. And if I'm a regular guy, when the business still doesn't go out, I'm getting upset. What the Piagetna says is incredible. Use it. You're saying, well, if I'm upset, maybe that creates a blockage between myself and Hashem. It's a challenge. But the Piaget is saying is right now, there's that contraction. You've broken the flat line. Ride that wave. Ride that wave.
Those waves and ride them. It's like a muscle you work out, and you'll get to that level.
Correct. And that's the Piaget is saying. Because the beauty of this is, now suddenly, I say, I can't get inspired. Piaget says, yes, you can. Because do you have moments of emotion? Yeah, all the time. That's great. You know what happens in that moment of emotion? The door to your neshama is open. The problem I have is not that I'm not inspired. The problem I have is I don't take advantage of the opportunities when the door is open to my neshama. So now when I get upset or I'm disappointed or I'm sad, I will say, by the way, it's not all disappointment, sadness, and death. In other words, the same thing is going to work also in moments of happiness, right? So I just want to point out, it's just the other side of the coin. We're going to get to it next week in Mitzvah because it's already getting late. We'll get to it next week in Mitzvah Hashem. But I will say, but again, what an incredibly profound idea. So the Piagetna says, when you experience those moments of disillusionment, use it. That's emotion. The door is open. The neshama is accessible. So take it, feel it. Who can help me with this? The logical answer is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So now says the Piaget, suppose that finishes up. Therefore he says, after you allow yourself to feel it, now plug it into tefillah. Kapitla Chav Tehillim. Say Tehillim. And then he goes on, he says, so we'll say, so now, again, I feel the pain. Let it like swish around a little bit. Now I feel it. Then say the kapitlach of Tehillim. After I say the kapitlach of Tehillim, what should I do? We'll say, listen to this. Yispalel befiv b'chalosh shushamea. Tehillim is not enough. What do you have to do?
Say it in any language.
To speak to God in your own words. Speak to God. Talk to God. We'll say, you know how many of us daven 3 times a day? And we don't talk to God? I daven all the time. But I can tell you that I daven more than I speak to God. Which I know sounds a little bit, but I will say it happens. Davening is easy. Open up a siddur, right, done, daven. Shain gedaven, right, I'm done, right? I have not spoken one word to God, but I've davened. So it says the Piaget that this is a process. The process is, you feel the emotion, the door is open. Allow yourself to feel it. Allow yourself to experience it. Who can help you? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu can help me? Tehillim. Let me plug this now into tefillah. But Tehillim is not enough because Tehillim is not your words. Tehillim is David HaMelech's words. The next step then is talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in your own words. He says, Umin dibor ledibor, min teva leteva, yargish shemocho umachshavto mechaskim va'olim, Ma'at hu ozev estzarchei gufo v'tzaka mispareses mi omek libo. And I will say, what happens? We'll stop over here for tonight. But the Piaget will say, what's going to happen? Again, I'm going to leave you on a cliffhanger. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? I will say something amazing. Is when I begin to talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in my own words, what now is awakened? The imagination is awakened. Because now I'm inspired. Inspiration is the first step. The door to my neshama is open. I'm talking to my neshama. I'm talking to Hashem. Now again, as I begin to talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the imagination is awakened. And suddenly again, Hashem is not some abstract, far-removed being. But suddenly again, I'm standing in front of the Kisei HaKavod. And suddenly again, I'm no longer an Eved, but now I'm a son before his father. So we'll stop over here for today. But what I want to say is, what I want to start doing from the chaburah, from the shir, and this is really based on what Reb Matt said in the last shir, Shavuot says, we have to start doing some homework. Because this is our chaburah. And there also, you don't show up here once a week to learn Piaget and then eat wings and potato kugel. Although it sounds like a good plan, right? But Lamais, like we have to start, now that we're a little bit more into the Sefer, we have to start taking what we're learning and putting it into practice in our week ahead. So our avoda for this week, and I'll put it out on the chat as well. But avoda for this week, we'll say, is in a moment of emotion. And right now the Piaget is talking about pain. So let's use pain for this week. In a moment of pain, and when I say pain takes on many different forms, right? Disappointment, upset, anger, whatever it is, all of us have those moments. So we'll say, let's follow this pattern. Recognize that when I feel that, first of all, understand what's happening when I feel it, the door to my neshama is open. Because emotion gives me access to the neshama. So we'll say, step one is, right, allow yourself to feel it. You see, we'll say, what ends up happening is, when we feel something negative, what happens more often than not? We'll say, right, what happens? What happens is, we live in a pain-averse society. So if something is uncomfortable, what's the goal? Get rid of it. Take something, right? Take something quickly, right? Have a l'chaim, or four, right? In other words, whatever you have to do, or pop something, do something, but don't feel pain. It's so unhuman to do that, because don't feel pain. Okay, good luck with that. Everyone feels pain. Piaget says no. Feel it. Allow it to course through you, not forever, because that's unhealthy. But the Piaget, in that moment of disappointment, step one is feel it and embrace it. Feel that and embrace it. Step right. Step one is the pain. Step two is feel it and embrace it. Step three. Ultimately, go ahead and plug it into a kapitel of Tilim. All right? And try to find a kapitel that somehow matches how you're feeling. If that's too complicated, just open the Sefer Tilim and just say something. Not 2 hours of Tilim, 1 kapitel, 2 kapitlach. So what you've done now is what? Like Rabbi Sol was saying before, I took the inspiration, and I plugged it into something concrete. Right? That's step 3. Step 3? Yeah, right. Step 1 is the experience, or you're feeling right. Step 2, allowing yourself to feel the pain. Step 3, plug it into something. Step 4, now say, who could help me with this? And in step 4, I recognize who could help me with this. Who could help me? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Which then leads to step 5. Speak to God in your own words. And have a conversation. And have a conversation about what's bothering you. Have a conversation about what's not going well. Have a conversation about whatever you want. And at the end of step 5, says the Piaget, you know what's going to happen? The imagination is awakened. And suddenly, again, I'm no longer a servant serving a master from a distance, but I'm a son connecting with his father in close proximity. So we'll say that's our avoda for this week. That's our avoda. And Meretz Hashem, we'll say, at some point in time, we're going to have to break off into smaller chaburahs, because we'll say the real power of this, the truth is when you take an experience that happened with you this week and you share it. That's the real. Now, I realize that's right. It's too big of a group to be able to do that. I will say, now, I know it makes people uncomfortable. Here's how you know you're on the cusp of growth. If you're asked to do something that you're uncomfortable with, that means you are on the cusp of something major. So part of this is going to be sharing. Because we'll say that's how you create.
Just make sure a psychologist is in one of each.
Dr. Solomon is here. He's going to be overseeing the chaburahs, and he accepts all major insurance. So we all right. We're good, right? So we're good. Correct. No, I'll say, but I just want to point out. Understand, please. Just understand. This is not me making this up. Remember, understand. That's the whole point of what we're learning. Remember again, the whole point of Bnai Machshava is not like a frontal shear where someone's teaching you Torah. The whole point of this is, okay, right now we're learning this together to get the format, but then the goal is small groups where guys are honest and vulnerable with each other. And ultimately saying, here's what happened to me this week. Here's what happened. And I got really angry. And here's the and then I realized in that moment, I remember the Piaget talking to me in my neshama, that I'm feeling emotion now. The door's open to my neshama. And then I said kapitlach aleph and chavav, because I felt that they missed. Or, those are the only 2 kapitlach until I know. So those are the ones I said. Whatever it is, I said. And then after that, I started talking to Hashem. And you know what? When I started talking to God, it's amazing. I started talking about this tzara, but then we started talking about this, and we started talking about that, and we started talking about this. And Abosai, when we begin to feel brave enough to share those experiences, and then we're mechazik one another. We're mechazek one another because wow, you mean Baruch Meir Dubin gets upset about stuff that he's always so happy. He's always so happy. And then you know what? Wow, you know what? I guess I'm not alone because I got upset about something else as well. And I will say that's where. So right now, again, our exercises are just in the group setting, and all of us have to do this avodah individually. But I will say, but do it. The same way, hopefully, we took time after the last year to think about again that vision of the last day on the earth. To say to use this because this is going to happen to all of us this week, and it'll be interesting to see how we feel after we go through the process of the PhD. So I'll say, all right, Belly, what are we going to say?
It almost sounds like something God forbid bad happens.
You know what? So with the PhD, so the truth is, again, kind of like what Chad was saying also, yeah, the goal, of course, is like to get to the level where you feel like that. The PhD is not saying bad stuff is a bracha. He's saying challenge is an opportunity. Challenge is an opportunity, right? You can wallow in it. You can feel sorry for yourself in it. Or you could say, you know what? I'm feeling... There's an emotional contraction happening over here. If there's an emotional contraction happening over here, I could do something with it. I will say, tell me that this is not the most incredible Torah ever learned in your entire life. I will say, here's what I look forward to. Imagine, Mashiach's going to come in Mirz Hashem. The Piazetzna is going to come back. There's going to be Tchias HaMesim. I will say, can you imagine Thursday night chaburah with the Piazetzna? We need a big spread.
I'm there.
That's going to be that's carving stations, charcuterie. Like that's going to be the same. Right, the same on fire. Right? It's true. The truth is, we need the Piazetzna before Mashiach, so we can be ready for Mashiach. And I'll say, but again, like this, even though the Piazetzna is not here with us physically, I'll say the neshama of the Rebbe is here with us every single time we learn his Torah, and this is it. So we're so zocher, we're so privileged to have a Rebbe like the Piazetzna. But like any good Talmud, you can have the best teacher in the world. But if the student doesn't internalize and act upon the teachings of his saintly teacher, then all the teachings are for naught. So we'll say that's our avodah this week. The Piazetzna taught us something beautiful this Erev Shabbos. Let's make it a week in which we internalize it. And Mirz Hashem, come back together next week. We'll say shkoyach. Ma'ariv.
We should all have to find a place against the wall for a few minutes.
That's right, baby. Now, 100%. This is it. 100%. Gotta find the place.